For the second month in a row, I hit infinite rank in Marvel Snap using only 2 decks. You don't need to be collection complete, you don't need to chase every meta trend, you just need to zero in on these 2 decks and you will be hitting infinite this month as well. Let's dive into an overview of both decks so you can go out there and crush the ladder. Hello and welcome everybody, Kicker of Elves here. Hope y'all are having a fantastic day. Today I'm here to give you 2 decks that I use this month to hit infinite. I've hit infinite every season in Marvel Snap since December 2022. This is my 37th season in a row hitting infinite, and this season I focused on just these 2 decks, and I think if you follow this guide, you'll be able to use both these decks, or just one of them, depending on your favorite approach, to absolutely crush the infinite ranked leaderboard and hit infinite yourself. I'm currently sitting in the top 350. I've been playing a little Conquest, playing some Grand Arena, but these 2 decks have absolutely crushed the meta. They're exactly what you need right now. And admittedly, when I say 2 decks, like I messed around here with Weapon X, quickly moved away from that. I was a degenerate during the hot location and played some Galactus on Altar of Death, which was some fun. But time and time again, as I was queuing up in the first couple of days of the season while I was doing my climb to infinite, these 2 decks I kept coming back to. They have incredible matchups into the metagame. They feel consistent or have a clear game plan, and I'm really excited to walk through these with you so you can take those lists yourself and absolutely obliterate the ranked leaderboard and just climb up the ladder. Whether you're in infinite or trying to hit it yourself, these are the decks you need. So let's dive right into it. The first of the 2 decks that I used to hit infinite, and I want to make sure I'm clarifying this with you. We just had an OTA. I hit infinite before the OTA, so I have modified these lists to go with the OTA meta considerations. Move wasn't one of the lists, but this would be a pretty silly video if I was like, I hit infinite in the first couple of days of the season using Human Torch Move, and then he got nerfed. Let's just talk about that list like nothing happened. These are spins on the list that I use that take into account the recent changes in the OTA so that we're not playing outdated decks. Now, with that being said, the first of the 2 lists that I focused on was this lovely chamber ramp build. I was messing around with stuff where there was doing, Nick Fury Devil Dinosaur stuff that doesn't feel as strong. With the OTA, where War Machine was changed to a 5/9 from a 4/6, this is absolutely the best variation of ramp out there right now. There's a lot of experimentation going on. I believe this exact list came from Smiles over at Snap Academy YouTube. Make sure you go subscribe to him. He's putting out fantastic content over there. And this is a very great example of a change in an OTA that's fantastic. They changed War Machine from a 5/9. They got rid of a very annoying Storm War Machine Legion lockdown deck, but made War Machine extremely relevant. So this deck, I love ramp. The very first time I hit infinite, the deck I used in December 2022 to push me over the finish line was a Electro ramp list. I played a lot of negative Surfer, but the ramp list was the one that ultimately took me from 99 into infinite. So what this list is trying to do holistically is blend a ramp game plan from cards like Chamber, who Chamber is absolutely insane. The more I've played him, when I reviewed him, I said like 3.5 stars. This is easily feeling like a 4-star card now that there's been more time to iterate, and it's clear just how strong ramp is post OTA, where we've taken down move, and people are still trying to do Shadow King stuff. This can go over the top of like Victoria Hand and shut it down with Enchantress. This deck feels great, and Chamber is regularly like a 2/11 in this list. He makes your bad draws where you got a bunch of 5 costs in your hand, you play Chamber on 2, feel incredible. You're like, oh, boop, let's get you to 2/11 right away. You're going to need to contest with that. But what this deck is trying to do is mix ramp cards like Chamber, Jennifer Kale, Electro, and Luna Snow with the War Machine, Infinite, Ebony Maw style package, where if you're able to get Electro into War Machine, you have Blink, Enchantress, and War Machine to get rid of the Electro downside, if you will, and War Machine is the preferred version of that, because what War Machine lets you do is on turn 6, you can play Ebony Maw and the Infinite for 27 power spread across 2 locations, and that on its own is such a clean and satisfying line. And that's just one of the things we're looking at here. You can also just easily go into you can scam out a Legion if you have War Machine too. Even if it's not the highest power play, you throw Legion down on a, if your opponent's playing a bounce list or playing something with a lot of lower cost cards, You slam that on a Crimson Cosmos, and it's like, good luck playing your Hit Monkey this turn, or on the whatever the location's called that gets rid of all the ongoing effects. If your opponent's playing an ongoing list, like, oh, sorry, Moonstone, that's gone. Legion's a very scammy card, but what we're able to do here is Chamber to benefit from all our big cards. Jennifer Kale, Electro, and Luna Snow help us ramp. Jennifer Kale probably being the weakest of the three, but Electro being the priority. We can get rid of Electro with Blink, Enchantress, or War Machine. And then Vision. Vision is a little bit of a flex slot here, but Vision can really help you get into closed off locations, and it's just nice to be able to ramp into him. If you don't have one of your cards that get rid of it, ramping into him on 4 feels great, because then you can just constantly move Vision around to get priority, throw priority, just move power where you need it to be, play him into a Mirror Island, get the buffs a couple of turns, move him out where you need him to be on turn 6. It's great. It's great to have a deck where Vision feels legitimate. You could run like a Cosmic Ghost Rider in this slot. I don't feel like this is a very teched out version of the deck you want to be doing. I'm honestly probably going to do a full deck guide on this list, or a similar list like it, because you can do Eson stuff. You could do Eson Nick Fury, Devil Dinosaur. This list I like, and this is the list I'm recommending based off my experience in using this to climb to Infinite. Of all the Chamber Electro ramp lists I did, this is probably one of the cheapest, because you're using Infinite and Ebony Maw. Like, you do need Luna Snow. I think Chamber makes this list feel incredible. I would say you probably want Galactus First Steps, but he was a season pass card, so if you've been playing, you should have him. And it feels fantastic. There are so many lines, and because we're running Enchantress to deal with Electro, we free roll into Living Tribunal, Classic Ongoing. If your opponent's playing Victoria Hand and still like kind of pretending that the meta didn't happen, and it's just like, or the OTA didn't happen, and it's just like, oh, let's do Victoria Hand stuff. Victoria Hand was super good into Move. Move's not around anymore. If they've got 2 of their Victoria Hands stacked into one location, Enchantress comes down and just obliterates things. You can do some mind games in this. This does feel like the evolution of the Storm War Machine Legion package, which was a deck I used to climb to Infinite last month. You can be a madman even if you don't have War Machine. You play Ebony Maw out on turn 1 and you have Galactus First Steps in hand. They have to start contesting that location. They're going to think if you're playing Ebony Maw early that you absolutely have War Machine, even if you don't. So you're already doing a little bit of mind games there. Naturally, that's not a line you want to do every single game, but the option is there. Electro as a 3/5 doesn't feel as like a card you super need to blink out of there. You're fine enchantressing it. Obviously, you do want to get rid of that downside in some way, so you can Ebony Maw Infinite, or Ebony Maw Galactus. Like, a 6 cost plus Ebony Maw on turn 6 feels incredible. Being able to just top a 1/7 is completely bananas, especially when it doesn't restrict you from playing cards there anymore. Luna Snow feels pretty good too. Like, Electro is your preferred ramp card. Luna Snow is definitely the backup, because you are you're giving your opponent that energy too. But honestly, a lot of the time, if you're able to suss out what kind of deck they're running, it matters a little bit less. Like, unless they're running like a high Evo deck, or they're running ramp themselves and you can tell from their early cards, a lot of times giving them that 1 point of extra energy doesn't really matter, especially if you can be a little bit tricky with where your Luna Snow goes and you kind of snipe it into a location that they're trying to fill up, so they get rid of that buff earlier than you're going to. But yeah, this list has pretty much everything you want in a ramp list. I have a personal attachment to ramp, so it makes me very happy that this feels like kind of the class of the meta. There is a list from Cougar around that does nightmare stuff. There's an Eson version of this list that plays a lot like Arishem with more created card stuff and has kind of a lower curve. But of those 3, at least right now, this is the one I'm going to recommend. This is again, from my experience climbing to Infinite, playing Chamber ramp post OTA, this is the version of the deck you should be using if you're trying to climb to Infinite. All the lines play into each other. You've got scam potential, and Jennifer Kale specifically, this could be Psylocke if you don't have her playing on. That doesn't feel great, but if you're able to get Jennifer Kale down on 2, Chamber on 3, you can activate Jennifer Kale, and then you can ramp into a 5 cost card. You can get out a Vision, a War Machine, a Legion. You don't want to blink if you play Chamber on 3, obviously, because you don't want to get rid of your Chamber, but Chamber really is impressing me. This seemed like such a boring, or some people are giving it like a 1-star review, and I think most of us were low on Chamber. We might all have to be filling out the Chamber apology form at the end of this week, because the fact that an electro-based ramp deck feels meta is awesome. And another thing I love about this deck, and why I think you're going to love it too if you want to push to Infinite this season, is even though there's a lot of like mind game, Ebony Maw, Legion scam stuff, this can just be a very simple line. You play Chamber on 2, you play Electro on 3, you Enchantress the Electro, things open up, you can play Galactus First Steps on 5, Infinite Ebony Maw on 6, no one's running Shang-Chi, this deck doesn't care about Shadow King. It feels fantastic. You don't need to have a degree in quantum physics. You don't need to be playing 5-dimensional chess. You can be eating your lunch break at work or in between classes, or just on the toilet playing this and having a wonderful time. Definitely recommend this. This was a very funny situation for me where going into this season, this is my second full month of content creation. Thank you everybody who's watching. Thanks so much for the support. This has been incredible. I decided to make sure I was collection complete going into the season. And I was like, all right, Chamber, I'm going to pick this up. I'm collection complete now. I'm not skipping a card. Chamber would have totally been a card I would have skipped on launch day if I was not doing this, because I'm just like, what the heck is this? And I'm so glad I ended up picking him up. What a reversal of fortune. So this was one of the 2 deck archetypes that I was using to climb to Infinite. This was definitely the second of 2, and this next list was my main list. And even in the tier list coming out, or top decks of the week videos post OTA, this is not on anybody's radar. And this next deck is so incredible. It's a little bit solitary. And this list right here is the Activate Surfer list. Now, I did a deck guide on this about a week ago on the channel. Highly recommend you check that out, because this combo package, especially OTA, post OTA, is so well positioned into the metagame. I think that you could honestly probably, looking at this list just holistically before I get into the heuristics here, if you watch that video, Captain Carter is a new addition here. I think Red Guardian, we're going to swap him out for Maverick when Maverick comes out, but he's a flex slot. This is a tech slot here, but holistically, when we talk about this deck, what this deck is trying to do is combine the Silver Surfer game plan with cards like Sebastian Shaw, Silver Surfer, obviously, Captain Carter, with the Jocasta Activate combination package, where you have cards like Herbie, Awesome Andy, Jocasta, and Omega Sentinel. And that synergizes with the Silver Surfer game plan, because you have cards that want to get buffed by Awesome Andy, like Sebastian Shaw or Captain Carter. Jocasta and Prodigy are both 3-drops, so you're hitting with the Silver Surfer at the end. That makes that lane that much more difficult to contest. We have Superior Spider-Man, because you have cards like Herbie and Captain America that can get bigger earlier on in the game and trigger your ramp potential from him. There is now, post-OTA, going to be much less a Victoria hand, as people who are playing Victoria hand are going to get crushed by the ramp lists and other combo lists that aren't move, because Victoria hand was super well positioned because it ran Deafening Chord and Shadow King to deal with move primarily. Victoria hand had a free roll into the Human Torch move list because it could Deafening Chord a Human Torch or a Madam Web, or Shadow King at the end of a game to blow up a lane, in addition to its very respectable points package. Ramp doesn't care about Deafening Chord or Shadow King. As a matter of fact, if you hit a freaking Ebony, if you mess up your snipe and you hit an Ebony Maw with your Deafening Chord, you're like, oh, thanks, I lost a power, but I can play cards in here now, even if I don't have my War Machine down. Wonderful, love that. So, since move has been nerfed, people are going to try experimenting with stuff like other combo decks like Tribunal, Ongoing, that go over the top of Victoria hand, and Victoria hand cannot run expensive tech cards, so it might drop off. This deck hated seeing Deafening Chord. Victoria hand and zombie stuff are the only decks really running that. Victoria hand's going to fall off, so this deck becomes even more incredibly positioned. This is solitary in the sense that you are trying to get a 2-cost activate down, like a Herbie or an Awesome Andy, Jocasta, copy the Jocasta with Prodigy, and then ideally get an Omega Sentinel into that location. That combination, especially let's just say you're doing Herbie, and with Herbie, what you want to do is activate his doubling ability, where he doubles his power. Because if you do that early, but you still get Jocasta Prodigy in that same location, it doesn't matter that you did that on turn 3 or whatever. On turn 6, when you trigger Jocasta and Prodigy, the text on Herbie stays fixed as, where is that one? Double this power. After you use the activate ability, that's what his text says. So when Jocasta and Prodigy use their like force the activate ability to trigger, he's going to double and get to like 98 power. In that location, if you have Omega Sentinel, who has the afflict the highest power enemy card with -7 power, and you use that on turn 6, that is 5 separate instances of refreshing and looking for, on the opponent's side of the board, what is the highest powered card, for a total of a -35 across the board. That is game winning, honestly, on its own in a lot of senses, as long as you're like just these 3 cards, regardless of what else you're doing. That is spreading across. That's not Shang-Chiing. That's not Shadow King. That is looking across every one of your opponent's other locations and saying, all right, I'm finding the highest power card and zapping it down. It is so strong. There's not a lot of tech against this with Victoria Hand falling out. And that's just the activate side of the package here. We have got Silver Surfer. Sebastian Shaw can get hit by the Awesome Andy buffs. If you have Sebastian Shaw alone in a location, when you use Awesome Andy and Awesome Andy's in a Jocasta Prodigy location, Sebastian Shaw's getting to like 20 power, and that's before you're using a Surfer buff. Captain Carter, same sort of thing. You get Captain Carter with a bunch of those buffs, and then you move a Sam Wilson shield into the fray. Captain Carter's passing on those buffs. You've got a very strong points package, and you can effectively run tech like a Shadow King. If your opponent's doing destroy stuff, you can check that down there. Red Guardian can shut down stuff like Iron Man, Dracula Discard, other ongoing cards. Captain Carter did used to be a Killmonger, but people are still experimenting with destroy. Maybe as that falls off, if 1-cost stuff comes back, maybe you bring that back in, but I don't think we need this right now. Red Guardian used to be a Mercury as well, and honestly, thinking this through, with some of the changes, with the amount of ramp that you're probably going to see, swapping Red Guardian out for a Gambit is going to feel very strong as a turn 6 play, because those ramp decks, they're not playing, this sounds silly, but like they care about every single card they're playing. To go back to the Victoria Hand example, you blow up their hood or you hit their Frigga or something, they're like, all right, like, yeah, I wanted the power, but it's not destroying my thing. If you hit their hood, it's a good thing, especially if they don't have a misery going. But with ramp, Chamber matters. The power from Luna Snow matters. Galactus First Steps, Infinite, Ebony Maw. Any single one of those is going to be a huge hit. So on the last turn of the game, like if you're trying Red Guardian, it feels clunky. You're dropping a Gambit Silver Surfer and you blow up one of their Infinite. Omega Sentinel is going to target the rest of the board. It feels fantastic. I would definitely recommend trying that with the prominence of ramp. But this list feels incredible right now. You just have to familiarize yourself with the lines. If you're able to get Awesome Andy, Herbie, and then Jocasta Prodigy, Omega Sentinel into a location, you snap on that every time because you are going to eviscerate their board. And that says nothing about being able to play Silver Surfer, Sebastian Shaw, Captain Carter buff stuff. Now, I do want to address quickly the Sam Wilson in this list, because it seems like if you're looking at this for the first time and you haven't watched my deck guide on this, you might be like, all right, you're talking a lot about, I understand activate. You can do some crazy combos with Jocasta Prodigy, triggering like the activate abilities 4 times. I get the Surfer stuff. You have a lot of 3 costs. Sam Wilson fits into neither of those buckets. So what's going on? Sam Wilson is in here because having his shield on the board and being able to move it is going to help you set up your Jocasta location so much easier. For example, if you have Sam Wilson down on 2 and you can move the shield, let's say you play Jocasta alone into a location on turn 3. Prodigy, based on his text, needs to be in the back row to copy the text of the card in front of it. So on turn 3, if you're playing Jocasta alone into a location, typically there's no way for Prodigy to copy it. We're not running 1-drops, we're not doing anything like that. But with Sam Wilson, you move the Sam Wilson shield into the Jocasta location, then you play Prodigy. Prodigy copies the Jocasta, gets that ability. You move that shield, it doesn't matter that that Prodigy is not in the back row anymore. It's copy the Jocasta ability. You're free to play your Omega Sentinel, your Herbie, Awesome Andy in the back row, and then you're just scaling up your Sam Wilson as well to trigger Superior Spider-Man. He He sounds like he's a flex spot in this, but honestly, he's not. I would hope that most of y'all are watching this. You've been playing for some amount of time. You have picked up Sam Wilson by now. He is probably the single best card that came out. The best card. He's the card of the year in terms of power and lasting meta relevance. Iron Patriot was good too, but Sam Wilson is just nuts. I would definitely, if you haven't picked him up, you definitely should. And he feels incredible in this list in terms of the viability of making everything work together. So holistically, just to do another rundown, you want to get Jocasta Prodigy copying Jocasta, Omega Sentinel, and then Herbie or Awesome Andy. Awesome Andy is more for the go wide. Herbie is there to go extremely tall in one location, and that works best. You can do Herbie and Awesome Andy in the same location if you want to. Awesome Andy for the go wide, Herbie for the go tall, but Omega Sentinel feels so strong as you're just sniping things across the board. Decks are not accounting for this. The ramp deck that we just went through is going to be extremely popular on the meta right now, with Chamber especially being a new card, people trying to complete their weekend missions and get in on that. Omega Sentinel says, bye-bye. If I'm in a location with Jocasta and Prodigy, I'm going to wipe the board. And okay, ramp, like you have an Enchantress, that's cool. It's a bummer you hit my Captain Carter. It's a bummer you hit my Sam Wilson, but Jocasta, Prodigy, Omega Sentinel, Awesome Andy, we're all activates. We don't care about that tech card. So it feels excellent. When Maverick comes out, just a little forward thinking, the best part about this deck is that it isn't even in its final form. It's like Frieza from Dragon Ball Z. Not in its final form. When Maverick comes in here, this deck is going to go completely insane. We probably cut Red Guardian for Maverick, and then that opens up things to, like, if we're Awesome Andying and we're buffing up Red Guardian, or we're buffing up Maverick, and then Maverick passes on that power to the next card you play, we can then bring in, like, that can go straight to Captain Carter. That can go to Sebastian Shaw. Maybe we bring in Brood. Maybe we say we don't need ramp from Superior Spider-Man. Superior Spider-Man's in here to be able to play 2 3 costs on turn 5. We like that ability. But maybe the Maverick stuff is so good that we're bringing in Brood because we can get Brood to 15 power because we're Awesome Andying a bunch of our Maverick alone in a location, and it gets up to 13 power or whatever it is, and then we pass that on to a Brood in another location. That's a 13 power Brood. That's an immediate 39 power play. It's going to be insane. This is the main deck I use climbing to infinite. Then ramp, excluding some of the hot location shenanigans when I felt like being a degenerate and playing Galactus. This was the main regular deck that you can still use today to go on the ladder and absolutely crush things. I would say if you're not seeing a lot of Shadow King relevant things, even though he is a 3 cost and feels incredible, you could swap that out for a Killmonger. You could swap that out for a Mobius. There are a lot of very good 3 cost tech cards. So this is the slot to adapt to the meta. Again, Red Guardian, I say experiment with Gambit. Red Guardian, Captain Carter, and Shadow King are the 3 slots where you could experiment a bit with more. Superior Spider-Man could be Luna Snow, but you really need the activate package of Andy, Jocasta, Prodigy. I'd say Omega Sentinel is required, and then even Herbie. That's what this deck's all about. The synergy between these 2 packages feels incredible, and it is a big part of what carried me to Infinite this season, and what will carry you to Infinite this season as well if you jump into that. So if you want more in-depth guides on how to hit Infinite or climb the Infinite rank leaderboard, deck guides to innovative and fun decks that go on forever because I love talking about this stuff, card reviews that actually take into the account the value of your token so you're not just spending willy-nilly on the new toy, then please stick it here to this channel, hit that subscribe button. We've only been doing this for about a month and a half and the response has been phenomenal. Thank you all so much for watching, and please leave a comment. When you hit Infinite this season, drop a comment down below. Let me know what deck you were using, even if it's not one of these. If you've already hit Infinite this season, let me know what deck you were doing. I love seeing the progress. I love reading and responding to the responses. I will reply to all comments on this video, provided you are not being rude or outright trolling me. But even if you don't want to talk about these decks, if you have a hyper specific like deck building question in Marvel Snap, just leave a comment below. I love talking about the game. And even if you don't want to talk about the game, you just want to talk about 90s anime or how the Boo Saga is underrated in Dragon Ball, or just like your favorite future funk artist, any of that stuff, I'm there. Meal prep, I'd love to get some meal prep recommendations. I'm making a lot of chicken cutlets to bring into work, and all those little rambly bits that I like to do at the end of the video aside, I'm Kicker of Elves. Thanks so much for watching the video, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.